okay, Imam. But he became an Imam, studied overseas, etc. And he's just, he called himself teaching us about our history. And he's saying, he said, and Malcolm this, and Malcolm this, and Malcolm this. And when he came in this, he did this, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting listening to this dude, this brother. And I asked him, I said, can I ask you a question? He said, yes, Imam Qasim. I said, what was Malcolm's nickname when he was in prison? He said, I think it was Detroit Red, right? I said, no. His nickname was Satan. I said, the Honorable Elijah Mohammed converted Satan to Islam. I told him just like that. He said, wow. I said, I understand your lively reading of history and etc. And like Nasser said, too, I have become so professional now. I'm used to, you wouldn't know how I was used to cut a person up. There would be blood all on the floor when I finished it. But now I do surgical operations real smooth. I told the guy, I said his nickname was Satan. And I said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his teacher, converted Satan to Islam. I said, so I think it would be wise of you to research that so you would know the history of this community before you begin to expound how great someone who was a student of the man who made him. And I say this to say this, that if you don't know your legacy, if you don't know your history, if you don't know how we got to where we are, you're gonna be listening to anybody who got a degree or whatever they think they know something. But it's people who brought this thing about. So that's why I love when we had the camp here, and now I see the results of it. I see the living legacy of the Asabawa camp procedure that started right here and then they went to the camp and etc. I see it in our youngsters, our young adults and etc. I remember Wally was a little run around, and Zaynab, and Zaynab was scholar that we're talking about. Got Quranic schools, everything. Man, Mahassan, I'm sorry, Mahassan, that's right, Mahassan. But look, Mahassan was at the camp too. Quintero was at the camp, and all these other youth, Hassan, etc., all these youth. And they have grown up. They ain't in prison. They ain't on the street hustling. You see? So why are we like this? Why do we have this vision? Why are we here now? You see? Dr. Nasser, when I came, I know he said that I pulled out a razor on him last night. He's always been my brother. And I was giving him my observation of the community and etc. and how we got the progress. He knows that I have no other intent but to help grow this community. And I've always been the one who spoke my mind. I said, look, man, this can't go like this. We have to change certain things. I'm not going to tell you all what I was talking about, and he knows. But the point that I'm making is that if we can't give constructive criticism to each other to improve the condition for the whole community, then what we in this for? You see? So even in this camp, my good friend Khalid, I told him years ago, we should have never let it die. Now, he's always been a generator for it, a promoter for it, and he has more hatchets than me, that I'm used to. What I mean by that, he likes to take care of business, he's very sharp, etc. I'm saying all this to let you know that there are a lot of players in this to make this happen. So now, let me introduce something to you. We're talking about the legacy of Imam Muhammad and the tools that was used to enhance community life, family life, individual life, because the family starts from the individual. Without an individual man and an individual woman coming together, you won't even have a family. I did a booklet years ago that Imam Mohammed asked me to do, and I was supposed to do a series of them. That's another story. We'll get back to it. But in this book that I did was called Helpful Hints for Imam. And a small one. And he looked at it and read it, and he said, wow. He said, Qasim, he said, this is good, and it's small and simple. He said, because a lot of people don't like to read. He told me just like that, you know. So, and I had this in here on Imam W.D. Mohammed. Who is he? Who is Imam Mohammed? We talk about a legacy, right? Let me read to you now. This is his words. He said, I am the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Clara Muhammad. I'm not a college graduate. I'm not a wealthy man. And I have no credentials that would impress you that much. I have followed the way of Allah and I have been sincere. Allah has blessed the best of myself to connect with the real truth and reality of things, and I fear nothing but Allah. I enjoy great respect from people of all various faiths, leaders, business establishments, and the media, because I stand for God and God's way. Nothing can explain the place I have now in the world except my obedience to God and God's way. Now, I want you to pay attention to what he said. I stand for God's way. And my topic, in the topic that they gave me, my identity, my tomorrow, take a stand. And they outlined stay true and never deviate. And I want to deal with that. But I want to start with those comments by the Imam. He stands for whose way? Huh? God's way. So that's the first point. Now, Imam Muhammad went on to say, God said to us in the Quran that he guides whom he wills. If he guides me, he's my leader. And Muhammad the Prophet is my human leader. Now, if you notice, some of you who were in the khutbah, some of the times I use in my introduction, that Allah guides to the straight path of to whom he wills. I always emphasize that, especially when there are a lot of ignorance. Because sometimes they be wondering how you got there. Right. How you know that? Right. Because the same God that guided you in the history of the Muslim guides us too. Why did he stop guiding? What makes you think that Allah won't guide you and us? He said, the Imam went on to say, my perfect divine leader is Allah. So these are my leaders. My leadership is Islamic knowledge, what God has revealed and given us as a guide. Now remember, we're talking about the legacy and the living will of Imam W.D. Muhammad and the inheritance of that will. This is legacy. Then he went on to say, the life that has formed in this body is the best life that I have. I follow and obey it because I know that is my salvation. If I go against the man in me, I go against my own life. I go against my own future and against my own destiny because I am not my God. I follow Imam W.D. Muhammad. How many of us heard him say it many times? Listen to this now. Listen to this concept. Listen to this idea that Imam emphasized here. He's talking about what's in him. The man in him. And he said that man in him, not the man that was made by the world, but the man that was made by who? God. He said, if I go against that, I go against my own self. He said, I follow Imam W.D. Muhammad. Now here's the man who said this. Another time he said, who is W.D. Muhammad? He said, it's the best in me. And then he said, and you too have the best in you, so follow what? The best thereof. This is powerful, powerful wisdom. If you don't get anything else out of what I say today, follow the best in you. And sometimes I be in discussion with my children or someone who and I'm trying to correct them or give them some direction. And they say, well, at least I ain't going to jail, at least I ain't on drugs, at least I ain't on it. I said, why are you naming all of the retarded things? Why do you compare yourself with the lowest? Well, at least I ain't doing this and this. That's the low thing. What about the higher excellence? Compare yourself with that. You see? Follow the best thereof. So Imam Muhammad went on to say, he said, accepting to have slavery instead of freedom is the worst thing that we can do. Listen, accepting to have slavery instead of freedom is the worst thing that we can do. Listen to this statement that he is making. How many like to be a slave?
Nobody.
Well, I want to be a slave. Yeah, thank you. I want to be an Abdullah, a slave of God. You see, but a slave to the world. So the Imam's legacy was to really free us from mental, moral, and spiritual slavery. Because you've already been free from physical slavery. But the habits that have been developed by us, by the enemies of our nature, make us enslaved to the habits. Alright. So he went on to say, so don't be a slave to anybody. Don't even listen to me and not use your own mind. What leader tell you something like this? Don't listen to me. If I invite you not to use your own mind. So what that suggests to us? Imam Muhammad wanted you to use what?
Your own mind.
Huh? His mind. Okay, the question would be now, why don't we use our own mind and our own thinking? Why we got to copy everybody else? I had a brother ask me once, he was sitting in my house and I had volumes and volumes of books. And I was doing Arabic with him at my house. And so he asked me, this is another Imam, please. And he said, Brother Imam, let me ask you a question. He said, you know, you speak to Arabic, you write to Arabic, you do this and etc. He said, how come you don't do something like these other people and walk around with an accent? I said, I can do that. I said, I can talk as if I'm from the Sudan and other places in Africa. And you would really think, because I've done that. I ain't going to tell you where, but I've done it. I had people thinking I was from overseas. You know? He said, why don't you do that? I said, if I did that, I would betray my own soul, my soul's aspirations. I would betray Frederick Douglass, then Mark Vesey, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth. I would betray the desire to be free from those slaves that would be poor. You see? So I don't be saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Wallahi, God is so great. Alhamdulillah, when I studied Islam, Islam gave me the empowerment to be liberated. Wallahi ya akhi. You know, I can go on and fake it until and still make it. But I don't want to do that. Imam Muhammad said, I would rather see you walk out of here and say, I don't want Imam W.D. Muhammad as my leader anymore, and exercise your own mind, your freedom of choice, and the freedom to think for yourself. Don't obey me without questioning me. Question me and obey me only when you feel satisfied that obedience to me is what Allah is pleased with, according to the Quran and according to the life of Muhammad the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let me tell you something. The legacy of Imam Warith Muhammad was to free you. If you really want to know his will,